All right, folks, welcome back. We have been diving into House Bill 98, which deals with ending any sort of public taxpayer money, public taxpayer resources from supporting or helping the teachers unions. And the reason why this is important, this is not against teachers. This doesn't reduce the pay for teachers. It doesn't reduce their ability to teach. It doesn't reduce their ability to get hired and get tenure or anything like that. Is tenure even a thing in K through 12? What this is all about is union activities. And the biggest union activity outside of doing, it might be even bigger than the bargaining that they do every few years for contracts, is all of their political work. Again, the Idaho Education Association is a teachers union in Idaho, and they're an offshoot of the National Education Association, which is the largest labor union in the country. So joining me now, of course, Brian Almon. Good to see you, Brian. I wanted to dive into this today. And so I know this is something that you've been paying attention to. We've been talking about it here and there on this program for a little while, but I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive here for folks because I think this is a very important bill. It might get it passed the House, but it might get might be harder to do over in the Senate. And so we really want people to be informed about this and make the right decision. So let's talk a little bit about the IEA union. Freedom Foundation, which is different than Idaho Freedom Foundation. Freedom Foundation published an article. We had one up earlier about where how tax dollars support unions. They have another article that came out today. Actually, I believe it's today. Is today the 17th? It is. This article came out today. So let's, if the producers can throw that up here, 93% of Idaho teacher union political spending benefited Democrats in 2024. Democrats in Idaho, 93%. Incredible. Not only that, they also supported Proposition 1 in the fight last year, Brian. So based on what you've seen so far, what is your analysis about the political activity that IEA is engaged in?
Well, I mean, what more is there to say? You went to the IEA website last week and showed what they were doing, promoting pride flags in schools and things. And the insidious thing is they're obviously a left-wing organization. I saw a stat that 95% of donations from the NEA members, National Education Association, went to Democrats. I found another one showing the other teachers union, American Federation of Teachers, was 99% to Democrats. So they, you see the list here. There's no question that this is a left-wing organization that wants to push left-wing ideas in not only in our schools, but in our whole society. Add to that, they assume they own our children. There's numerous quotes of teachers union leaders saying that they're our children. We know what's best. Parents don't know what's best. We need to have control of this. They also think they own your tax dollars, not only directly here, the fighting against House Bill 98, saying that we, taxpayers must continue to support unions through various things like paid time off for political activities. But they also, every time there's a school choice bill, $50 million for House Bill 93 is less than 0.02% or 0.2% of the total budget for education, and they fight against it, saying that this money should be instead going to schools. They believe that your children are theirs. They believe that your tax dollars are theirs, and they have an extremely left-wing worldview. But as you said last week, they cloak this under being just a professional organization of teachers, and how dare you oppose teachers?
Yeah, exactly. Well put. Well, great summation there. All right, let's dive into a little bit to these numbers here. This graph here, of course, is on this Freedom Foundation article, and you can just see how out of the 2024 general election endorsements, they endorsed 34 Democrats, and the GOP is broken up, but there's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 GOP. One competitive GOP race, 8 that were safe, and 4 that were unopposed, and then 1 independent, and then what is this, GOP plus a Dem? I don't know what that purple one is.
So they did a dual endorsement of Senator Ron Taylor and Lori Likely, the Republican challenger. They endorsed both of them.
Oh, they endorsed both of
District
them.
26.
Okay, right. And that was a three-way race. There was an independent in that race. So they were basically saying, don't anybody but the liberty-minded independent. Let's not have that person in here. Okay, very good. And then I think there was another. Oh, yes. So let's go down here about the spending, because this is about where all the money goes, right? So there's a chart down here that shows how much money that they kind of explain how a PAC will collect all the money, and then they will send it to other PACs to do the work, so that it's not directly tied to their PAC. There's nothing illegal about this. I wouldn't even say there's anything unethical about it. It's just this is how they're going to move their money around in order to support their issues.
Right. Basically, like you said, they move the money around. It's, I was digging into a couple years ago how the governor has a PAC that moves money to another PAC, that moves money to another PAC, and then that PAC goes and buys advertising against conservative senators. IEA does the same thing. PACE is their Political Action Committee for Education. That's the PAC that's directly associated with the teachers union. But they also created another PAC called Right to Learn, that it was essentially a Get Wendy Horman PAC. They put $90,000 into Right to Learn, and a huge majority of that money went to going after Representative Horman out in her race. They were really trying to take her out because she's obviously sponsored some school choice legislation, and they threw a few bucks to others as well.
Yeah, well, if you scroll down a little bit, Freedom Foundation has a chart here that kind of clearly shows how much they put out against Wendy Horman. So you can see that. I mean, that's like the most of their spending, all of it, I would say, maybe 90% of it. Looks like it was there to oppose Representative Wendy Horman. She's at the top there. The others were Representative Steve Tanner, Representative Chris Bruce, Representative Rob Beiswinger, Senator Christy Zitto, Representative Marmon, Representative Kaler, Senator Foreman, Senator Shippey, Representative Levitt, Senator Cole. Those made up the bulk of the opposition.
And just to explain to readers how PACs do this, PACs can give money to candidates, but they're limited by the amount of the limits, which is $1,000, I believe, for a legislative race. However, they can do what's called independent expenditures, and that's where you get the mailers or the social media ads that say vote against this person because they're bad, or vote for this person because they're good, and they have no limit on how much they can spend on those. Right. The only caveat is that they can't coordinate with the candidate's campaign on those.
Exactly. And as somebody who also helps run a PAC, that's exactly what we do. You run mailers, you do door knocking, you do text, you do all sorts of different things on behalf of a candidate that you're supporting or oppose, without coordinating, of course, with the campaign that you're trying to help. Okay, and if you scroll down, you can start to see that it turns to green, which is support, and then those numbers build up, and their largest support was for Senator Jim Woodward. Another Republican registered out of District 1 up in Bonner and Boundary County, and he was in a tough race against Senator Scott Herndon, who was a force to be reckoned with when he was down there during his single term at the moment. And then, of course, you see the other folks that are listed on there too as receiving a lot of support. So it'll be interesting to see as this makes its way over to the Senate, how hard Senator Woodward may or may not oppose H98, considering he was a beneficiary of, it looks like, about $12,000 worth of support from just Right to Learn alone. Mm-hmm. And then there's another PAC, Stronger Idaho. If we scroll down a little bit, doing the exact same thing. It looks like they were really focused on Representative Tanya Burgoyne out in Pocatello. She was in a general fight against the Democrat, right?
Yes. That District 29, there was an incumbent Democrat, Nate Roberts, and Tanya Burgoyne was challenging him. And, she ended up winning, but they, certainly tried to stop her there. You also had, a race against Representative Manwaring was there as well, and Senator Ruckty. The Democrats still have the Senate seat out in Pocatello.
Right. And again, Representative Brandon Mitchell, Senator Foreman, they're both in the same district, so they received about $6,000 worth of opposition money. And then down at the bottom, this Stronger Idaho was in full support of the Democrat Steve Birch and let me repeat that, the Democrat Steve Birch.
Wait, he's a Democrat?
He's a Democrat. Can you believe it?
Huh.
And Democrat
Never see it on his signs.
Senator Ron Taylor. You don't see that on the signs. And we heard an interesting bill earlier this morning. If we have time, we want to get to. Okay, so that was Stronger Idaho, and then they come down to a conclusion here, ending up the research on the endorsements and the spending. Okay, and this is from our good friend Maxford Nelson over at Freedom Foundation. So thank you to Maxford for sending us all this info, pointing us in the right direction, because this is definitely something that we wanted to dive into. So now to the point, to push back a little bit, because Freedom, this isn't the Idaho Freedom Foundation, this is Freedom Foundation, which is a sort of a national or at least regional foundation, but they work on these issues to help states and legislators identify problems and areas to improve. And so when you have someone like Lori McCann stand up and say, like, oh, this bill comes from out of state, that term it's such a boogeyman, that term out of state. It's so disingenuous to keep using that term for so many different things when all you're literally trying to do is tackle an issue that actually is happening in Idaho. Right, Brian?
Well, sure. And you notice they're not going to complain if Planned Parenthood comes in with a bill or some other left-wing organization. So it's one of those things that it's an excuse to, cover why you really don't want to oppose a bill or support a bill. And you see that a lot when you start watching the legislature. You'll watch a Democrat or maybe say a moderate Republican. They don't like a bill for some reason, but they're not going to tell you why they really don't like it. So you'll see someone get up and say, I'm concerned about the fiscal note on this bill. It doesn't seem to really accurately reflect what it'll cost. Or you see Representative Ilana Rubel, the leader of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, saying, I don't want to vote for this bill because it's not conservative. Well, I suspect there's other reasons, but for whatever reason, they don't want to say that part. So they'll find some other excuse that maybe sounds more palatable.
Yeah. Yep. That's very good. All right. Well, we're going to keep tabs on this. I know you are going to be doing the same, Almon, so that's great. I want to take a quick break. We got a voicemail to play on the flip side of that, and I'd love to have you stick around to go through a couple of other items, agenda items. Or if it's not on the agenda, you can amend the agenda, Almon, and add it to the agenda.
I moved to send the agenda to general orders.
Yeah, and I need to go find a haircut. What's going on over here? All right, folks, we'll be right back.
That's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.